stand on the slick wooden deck of the Brindlewood in 1888, and you cannot hear yourself scream. The Cook Strait isn't just an ocean, it's a meat grinder. Millions of gallons of the Pacific violently cram themselves through rocky cracks barely 100 yards wide. The water doesn't flow, it boils. 8-knot tides rip the ocean surface into massive spinning funnels that can swallow a 500-ton ship. Tonight, the Brindlewood is losing. The mainmast bends like a wet twig. Freezing black salt water washes over the bow in heavy sheets, sweeping the deck and blinding the helmsman. For a fraction of a second, the darkness breaks. Jagged black rocks jut out of the white foam dead ahead, like shattered teeth. The captain throws his entire body weight into the heavy wooden wheel, his knuckles white as he braces for the sickening, violent crunch of timber against stone. The freezing black water is waiting, but the hull doesn't shatter. Instead, a ghostly white torpedo violently breaches the black water dead ahead. It isn't a jagged rock. It's 13 feet of pure muscle, a Risso's Dolphin, glowing pale in the storm. It doesn't flinch at the massive wooden hull bearing down on it. It surges directly into the ship's path, carving a perfect, glowing wake through the churning foam. It sharply banks left, then violently cuts right, expertly threading the needle between the hidden reefs beneath the surface. The captain stares through the freezing rain, his chest heaving. Trust his useless charts or trust the wild animal? His orders fall on deaf ears as the violent winds swallow his commands. He cranks the heavy wheel, forcing the massive ship to follow the glowing creature's wake. The deafening roar of the surf drops away. The massive waves flatten into heavy rolling glass. The Brindlewood glides past the final jagged rock and into the open, moonlit ocean. Ahead of the bow, the pale Dolphin bursts from the water in a massive, arching leap, hangs suspended in the moonlight for a fraction of a second, and slips silently beneath the black surface. Welcome back to Legendary Listicles. I am the legendary Lister. Today, we are boarding the ships of the deadliest strait on Earth to witness the impossible true story of Pelorus Jack. The Brindlewood's survival wasn't a fluke. Within a decade, this single, solitary animal was effectively guiding the entire New Zealand maritime fleet. Forget the sleek, smiling, bottlenose dolphins at marine parks. Pelorus Jack was a Risso's Dolphin, a deep-water bruiser built to dive into the freezing abyss and hunt giant squid. His thick, pale body was a roadmap of violence, crisscrossed with jagged white gouges from wrestling sea monsters in the dark. He was an outcast, an orphan of the ocean who adopted passing iron leviathans as his new pod. By the turn of the century, a rigid ritual took hold. As steamships approached Colonnet Point, captains rang the telegraph. The massive coal engines ground to a halt. The ship drifted in dead silence. The crew lined the railings, staring at the flat water, waiting. Then the water erupted. Jack surged from the depths, locking into the pressure wave of the massive steel bow. You could hear him breathing in sharp, heavy bursts. He rolled on his side, skimming dangerously close to the cold iron hull, effortlessly surfing the invisible underwater current, a living pilot leading multi-ton steamships safely through the labyrinth. Jack became a worldwide phenomenon. The upper decks of luxury passenger liners were packed shoulder to shoulder. Men in heavy three-piece suits and women clutching wide-brimmed hats leaned into the sea breeze, the air smelling of burning coal and expensive perfume. With every breach, the deck lit up with a blinding white flash of magnesium powder. Even Mark Twain stood at a wooden railing in 1895, captivated by the scarred, pale torpedo leading his ship safely through the rocks. But fame is a magnet for the worst kind of men. By 1904, Jack's presence was a guarantee. As the SS Penguin sliced through an ink-black night, he was exactly where he always was, surfing the bow wave, his scarred, pale skin illuminated by the glow of the ship's yellow lanterns. Up on the promenade deck, the sharp sting of whiskey cut through the salt air. A passenger, heavy on his feet, stepped up to the polished railing and set down a crystal glass. Metal clinked against wood. As he unslung a heavy Winchester rifle, the hammer clicked back. He squinted into the darkness, tracking the iron sights perfectly, with the pale, breathing silhouette of the Dolphin, a blinding the deafening crack rolled out across the open water. Down below, the ocean boiled. Jack thrashed and dove hard, leaving a sickening, spreading cloud of crimson in the churning white sea foam. Chaos erupted on the promenade. A deckhand tackled the gunman, ripping the hot rifle from his hands, while passengers screamed into the pitch-black void. For weeks after, the Cook Strait was a graveyard of silence. Captains still cut their engines at Colonnet Point, gripping the rails, staring down at the water. But there was nothing. No breaches, no heavy breathing at the bow, just a cold, empty ocean. But legends are hard to kill. Months later, the water shattered. Jack surged up the bow wave of a passing freighter. Sailors leaning over the rail gasped. A fresh, jagged bullet hole was carved deep into the muscle of his flank. But he didn't miss a beat. He fell right back into the rhythm, surfing the pressure wave, guiding the iron hulls once again. Except for one. Wild animals do not forget trauma, and Jack never forgot the massive, distinct, iron silhouette of the SS Penguin. Whenever the Penguin approached the pass, the engines cut, and the captain waited. But the water remained completely, terrifyingly flat. Jack vanished into the abyss, leaving the Penguin to face the jagged rocks alone. Every single time, the blood in the water had enraged an entire nation. The government of New Zealand drafted a historic order in council under the Sea Fisheries Act of 1894. For the first time in human history, an individual wild animal was shielded by the full, crushing weight of human law. And the ship that pulled the trigger, 5 years later, on a pitch-black night, 1909, the Penguin navigated those exact same waters without their pilot. A sickening crunch of iron against stone echoed for miles. The hull violently tore open, and freezing black water flooded the boiler rooms. The ship was dragged down into the abyss, taking 75 souls with it. A grim, terrifying monument to human arrogance. Pelorus Jack swam those waters, untouchable, until 1912. He wasn't just an animal. He was a lifeline in the dark, proving that even in the most violent, unforgiving corners of the earth, the wild is willing to guide us if we just put down our guns and follow the wake. If you survived this deep dive, hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment down below on what legendary creature we should track down next. And until then, stay legendary.